Thank you, Linda. In July of 2015, a group consisting of the Middle East and Lebanon's most prominent bloggers, lawyers, and artists, as well as concerned individuals, came together to denounce the waste management crisis that erupted on July 17th when the Ne'ameh landfill, which was holding the waste 5 times up its intended capacity, was shut down. The group was titled You Stink, and they began a series of protests which on August 29th attracted close to 100,000 people in Martyrs Square in Beirut. Assaad Thebian is one of the co-founders of the You Stink movement. Welcome, Assaad. Thank you for being here.
Hello. Thank you.
So, 2 months in, you've got a series of protests that many times erupted in violence, and 4 key demands. I'm just going to name them. The resignation of the Environment Minister. You've called for accountability for the attacks on protesters, to give the money back to municipalities, as well as parliamentary elections. And a plan was put forward by the Agriculture Minister, but you said no. Why?
We didn't find the plan that was given by the Minister of Agriculture responding to what we were calling for. The plan lacked, it was of 2 parts, the transitional period and the sustainable period.
Right.
Sustainable period has good valid points, but the transitional one doesn't really address any of our concerns. It doesn't talk about recycling, it doesn't talk about freeing the money to the municipalities directly. It only, and the worst part is when the law was given a decree by the government, it was only passed as a Facebook like. So the decree by the government was of 9 points. The first point said that they actually liked the plan, but they didn't talk about it in the other 8 plans. And it didn't, the plan didn't go as an attachment to the law itself, where other attachments were included.
Right, but a lot of, I heard that some of the government officials tried to meet with individuals from the You Stink movement. Is that correct?
Yes.
And they spoke with you and they tried to get your opinion. They didn't get your opinion on the matter?
When they asked to talk to us, we said that in the You Stink coalition, You Stink is part of a bigger coalition which is going on down on the streets. Part of this coalition is environmentalists. These environmentalists were given the freedom to meet with the Minister of Agriculture, and they met twice. And when they came back to us with the feedback, they said that none of the remarks were taken into consideration.
Right, but let's address what your critics are saying.
Yes.
You've done a very good job, they're saying, in bringing a grassroots movement with no political side to the table. You were able to basically evoke in people this feeling of unity and let's go down, and this is a reason to fight for Lebanon and the rights and the government and what's not working. But at the same time, your critics say that you lack organization, credible solutions, and alternatives. So what do you say to that?
First, to address the first point, which is organization. As you mentioned, we're a 2-month-old group that has no funds. We only met because of one demand. Most of the people who are in the core group didn't even work with each other before. We're still in the formation in order to do organization. But then we proved on the streets on both 29th of August and on last Sunday that we're actually highly organized. We were able to gather more than 100,000 people in a square at one time, leave at the same at another time. No riot, no problems. And then on Sunday, we were able to march peacefully, step by step, until we reached the closest borders to the parliament, without even when facing riot police. So this diffuses the idea that we're not really organized. But at the same time, there is a big coalition, and there is a lot of groups that are being formed underneath, or are freshly formed. And this will take some time until you find management for this.
So you're saying that you're still young and there's still room for growth. And so until you find a more, you're building up,
of course,
basically.
That's one. And second thing that is said that we don't have solutions, that is also not true. Since this day one, we had 4 demands. The demands are still the same.
Okay, well, if you're saying you have credible solutions, why do you think the politicians are not listening?
Because they only want the solutions that will make them steal money from the public money, and they don't want accountability.
Have you been able to face one of them and say this is what your problem is and get a response back?
I think all of the politicians, even 2 of the most prominent figures in Lebanon, said if it wasn't for sectarianism, then we should have left our offices. It means they're actually admitting that they were corrupt. What we're asking for, where's accountability? So you say I've been corrupt in, let's say, the garbage issue since 1993. until now, 22 years, you admit you're being corrupt, and then you say, but we're not going to do anything about it. That is so wrong. That's not being responsible.
This waste management crisis, a lot of people said, and critics have said, analysts have said, it was the straw that broke the camel's back, because there are so many problems in Lebanon, from electricity cuts to water shortages to parliamentary elections, which have not taken place
for the
since
parliament
2009.
twice.
Right. So do you think that, you should have started with one thing, which also I hear a lot. They just should have started with the garbage crisis, try to get that resolved, and then move on to other.
That's what we're actually doing. Our group, Youth Think, only started with the garbage issue. All our actions since day one until now are sticking to the garbage issue. We believe that when we resolve this, we move to another and tackle another issue.
Where are you in the process today? When you think about it, 2 months in, these protests have resulted in some of your friends ending up in hospitals, wounded, being hit, being beaten with batons, and there's been more than 2 protests now. We mentioned 2, but there's been many more.
This is the price of calling for your demands, and I myself, I was arrested, I was beaten, but this is a price we should all do if we want a better country to live in. Where we are, we've managed to do a lot of success. We stopped the government from dividing the solution into six monopolies like Soclean. We are making them talk about freeing the money to the municipalities.
Right, they've talked about that. Nothing's been done yet. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
And we were able, and this is the most important thing, to shift the focus from 2 sectarian speeches that were in the country and give the people a new way of voice, I would say. Yeah.
Do you feel like you're losing momentum right now? There's a momentum loss. It was a little bit more powerful, we felt, in the beginning, and now 2 months in, it's a little bit withering down. Do you feel that at all?
Not at all. I see it that Sunday was a challenge, and we succeeded in Sunday. We were able to group thousands of people to the street again, regardless of all the rumors that were thrown at us.
Why do you do it? Why a march? Why a march from
There's different tactics. We tried demonstrations, we tried march, we tried sit-ins, we tried hunger strike.
Okay, well, what's next? All these, as you said, have not resulted in anything efficient that you've seen so far.
Last Monday we announced as Youth Think movement, we're going back to the bases. We're doing non-violent direct actions. And we started one on Tuesday where we did something that is fun, playing with soccer in front of the parliament of the dialogue session, because we thought that they're wasting time. We're wasting time the same way and throwing the ball to their playground. We have an action that is going to happen in a few minutes in the airport.
It's mostly to get attention. It's mostly to get them to
tell them the pressure is still there, but we also have escalation movements that are going to be happening in the few days.
The last question I have for you is, you've also, on a more positive side, given hope to a lot of people who feel very hopeless about this country, because they'll say if a grassroots movement can do it, then somebody is taking care of this, somebody is doing something. Do you feel now there is pressure to continue?
Definitely. We announced on Monday that we may have made some mistakes. We apologize for them. We're addressing the Lebanese public directly, very transparent, and we think that the fight must go on. It's not about Assad, it's not about the Youth Think people. We may step aside, but other people should take the torch and move on. We need to change this country. We can't allow our children to live the same situation we're living in.
All right. Well, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
That was one of the co-founders of the Youth Think movement, talking about the path and what is to come. Back to you, Linda.